All right, Javosai. Good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is Lamed Hey, the beautiful daf ahead of us. We are picking up on Lamed Dalet Amud Beis 34b, and we're picking up 3 lines off from the bottom Amud Rava. So also remember again, we were discussing the interesting discussion over here about a man who's mekadesh a woman with the excrement of a shor haniskal versus the excrement of a shor of Avodah Zara. And remember making the fundamental distinction that the excrement of the shor haniskal is muter ba'ano versus the excrement of the shor haniskal is muter Avodah Zara versus the shor of Avodah Zara, which is asr b'hano. So the Gemara wanted to suggest we can learn this out either through a pasuk or through a svara. We did both of them yesterday. Rava comes along and says as follows: Amar Rava, Tarvayu Tanani. The truth is, we can learn both of these concepts from our Mishnah. How so? So the Gemara says, because most remember again, so when the Mishnah was discussing the prohibition of akum cheeses, so why is akum cheese prohibited? So the Gemara says, because, the Mishnah said, because they go ahead and they make them bekevas nevela, in the stomach, ultimately again, of the nevela. The kamahadrele, and remember again, this was the discussion between Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Shmuel, and he responded to him, Balo kevas ola chamura, mikevas nevela. Yet what was the response? The response was that why should that be a problem? After all, this usage of the stomach, or I should say differently, usage of the milk inside the stomach of an ola is more chamer than an nevela. Because remember again, what did the Mishnah say? That if the kohen wants to drink the undigested milk inside the stomach of the ola, that he has the ability to do so. So you see from here that the undigested milk is not considered to be like a part of the animal itself. And if that's true for ola, it should certainly be true for Avodah Zara as well. In which case, even if they're using the milk in the stomach of the nevela to go ahead and curdle the cheese, it still should not be problematic. We'll say top of Lamed Yem Aleph. Michlal v'suri hana shara parshayu. We'll say, what do you see from here? You see from here that halacha lamaisa again, to use the milk inside the stomach of something that is an isur hana is mutter. Which I will say again, now we're assuming that whatever is true for the milk inside the stomach of the animal is also true for what? The excrement of the animal. So you see from here that anything that is not considered to be a primary part of the animal, or a part of the animal proper, ultimately is mutter ba'ana. That will apply ultimately to the excrement of the animal, and it also applies to what? It also applies to the milk in the stomach of the animal. And again, the fact that we said that the cheese is aser because they go ahead and they cause it to coagulate with the leftover milk inside the stomach of, or from the stomach of, and anyway over the avodas kochavim, the kamahadrele im came lama lo asra bahano. And remember again, the response to that is, if that's the case, so why isn't asra bahano as well? Michlal da avodas kochavim asra per shayu. We can infer from that that's what? That's when it comes to something that is asra al avodas kochavim, even the pirsha, even the excrement, which I will say in this context, excrement will mean excrement itself, but can also mean anything that is not a part of the primary animal. For example, like the milk left over in the stomach of the animal will also be asr. So I'll say, so bottom line, the Gemara Rava just suggests that this distinction that we drew in yesterday's daf, namely, that when it comes to Avodah Zara, we'll say any part of an Avodah Zara animal, right? Even the peresh, right? Even that which is the excrement, or not part of the primary animal, will be asr ba'ana. But when it comes ultimately again to other items, we'll say, which are not necessary, which are just perhaps isuri hana. So I'm sorry, let me say differently. When it comes to Avodah Zara, essentially, any part of the animal is going to be asr. That is true whether it's the excrement of the animal, the leftover undigested milk in the stomach of the animal. It is all going to be asr b'hana. However, I will say when it comes to isuri hana, apparently it is only the animal proper that is going to be asr, but the perish or the excrement of the animal will not be asr b'hana. Okay, so the Gemara says, so we'll say, remember again, all of this is a discussion between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Yoshua, right? Remember again, Rabbi Shmuel asked Rabbi Yoshua, why is it that kavinos ovdei kochavim are aser? To which Rabbi Yoshua responded, to which Rabbi Shmuel responds, well, if that's the case, That can't be it. Why? Because we see that a Kohen could drink the milk inside the stomach of an Ola, and at the end of the day, an Ola is an Isser Hana, Masha'in Kain, which is more Chamer than the Keva of an Egle of Ados Kochavim. So the Gemara says that Mishum Delese Isura Bine. So why don't we say the following? Why doesn't he say that at the end of the day, the reason why the cheese should be mutter abosai is why? Because the Isser is not be'en. What does it mean the Isser is not be'en? So you said, let's take this a step further. Even if at the end of the day, the reason why the cheese of an akum is going to be Asr is why? Because halacha l'maisa, the cheese is curdled with the leftover milk inside the stomach of the egel of Avodah Zara. Let's even assume for a moment that that is correct. Why not go ahead and say the reason it should be mutter is why, Rabosai? Because at the end of the day, it's not be'en. We'll say not be'en mean the isser is no longer extant. The isser is no longer visible. It's not there. Why don't we say that therefore again, that even if it's curdled with the milk, leftover milk in the stomach of the egel of Avodah Zara, it should still be mutter because it's not be'en. The hamurias l'rabbanan delo asru ba'ana. Because we'll say, let's go back. Remember again the murias. What's the murias? The morias I will say is the dish made with the fish kishkas, right? Is going to be mutter. It's going to be mutter ba'ana. There's an isser achila, but yet it's mutter ba'ana. Why is it mutter ba'ana? My time. Lav mishum delese li isura be'inei. Because I will say at most it'll be an isser achila because of the possibility that yayin nesach is mixed in, but it will be mutter ba'ana. Why? Because the isser is not be'en. To which the Gemara says, Amri hacha. Kevan du'ukmi kamokim chashav lekiman di'isei le'isura be'inei. This is actually quite profound. The Gemara answers, Rabbi said, we're going to get into this a little bit more in Meseches Chulin, the concept of a davar hamaimid. Davar hamaimid means when you have something that essentially is a coagulant. When you have something ultimately that is a binder or a coagulant that brings everything together, that item, even if it's not be'en, which means that even if it's not visibly discernible in the mixture, is still going to ultimately, again, be considered to be halachically present. So therefore the Gemara suggests as follows. You're telling me now that the reason why Gvinas Akum is problematic is why? Because at the end of the day, the coagulant that's used is the leftover milk inside the stomach of the egel of Avodah Zara. So the Gemara says, it's not be'en, meaning it's not visibly discernible. That's true that it's not visibly discernible, but what Rabbi say, because it is the coagulant, because ultimately, again, it goes ahead and it brings things together. Therefore, by definition, it's considered to be halachically significant. So we'll say because of that, it poses a problem halachically. So we'll say the way this sugya ends off over here, now again, we're not finished with this, but the way the sugya ends off over here is that you have Rabbi Shmuel asking Rabbi Yoshua, right? Was it Rabbi Shmuel to Rabbi Yoshua? Yes. Rabbi Shmuel asking Rabbi Yoshua, what's the problem with Kavinas Akum? And again, Rabbi Yoshua responding essentially because the cheese is coagulated with the milk, leftover milk in the stomach of the egel of Avodah Zara. And I will say, really what this sugya brought out is anything that is part of an Avodah Zara animal is going to be Asr Ba'ada. Okay, fine. And even though it's not Be'en, because it's a Davra Maimin, because at the end of the day, it is something ultimately that what? That is the coagulant, therefore it'll be Asr. Fine. Sesil Davaracha. So let's remember again, after, this is one of these interesting cases, after Rabbi Shmuel is asking Rabbi Yoshua the question, and Rabbi Shmuel keeps challenging Rabbi Yoshua's answer. So what happens? So Rabbi Yoshua goes ahead and diverts Rabbi Shmuel to a different topic. So remember again, he starts darshaning the pasuk from Shir Hashirim. So my ki tovim dodecha miyayin. So also remember again, so Rabbi Yoshua begins a discussion regarding the pasuk from Shir Hashirim, ki tovim dodecha miyayin. Your love is even better than wine. So remember again, Rabbi Yoshua was asking Rabbi Shmuel, so is it dodayich, is it dodecha, is it masculine, is it feminine? So the Gemara says, why does he bring up this pasuk? My ki tovim dodecha miyayin. What does this mean? That your love is better than wine. The boss is actually quite beautiful. Ki asa ravdimi amar. Ki asa ravdimi amar. Amra knesser v'nei Baruch Hu. Klal Yisrael says to Yibon Shalom. Yibon Shalom. Arevim alai divrei dodecha. Yoser miyena shal Torah. Well, listen to how beautiful this is. Klal Yisrael says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribbono Shel Olam. Literally, the words of your the words of your beloved ones are more special to me more than the wine of Torah itself. I will say, what does this refer to? Take a look at Rashi's second line from the top. Divrei dodecha, divrei sofrim. The words of Chazal are even more precious to me than the words of Torah itself. I will say, what's the pshat with that? So Rashi says, Miyeino ikar Torah shelichsav. So we'll say what the Gemara seems to be saying is as follows, which is quite beautiful. The words, Klal Yisrael says, the words of Chazal are even more beautiful to me than the words of Torah shelichsav. What's the pshat? We'll say, we've seen this concept before, that the words of Chazal often require an incredible amelos. See, the words of Torah shebechsav, they're written. Kadosh Baruch Hu wrote it down in the Torah, and therefore they are what they are. The divrei Chazal also require amelos. The words of Chazal ultimately require us to struggle. The words of Chazal require an in-depth, what's the right word? A challenge. Right? The words of Chazal only come about because Chazal choose to work, Chazal choose to plumb the depths of the Torah. Chazal try to figure out what is the Ratzon HaBorei. So Klal Yisrael says, anything in life that you come to as a result of your own exertion is always more sweet than that which is handed to you. Torah shebechsav, the Rebbe Shalom handed to us. Torah shebal peh, I have to work for. So because of that, Chazal says Torah shebal peh is even sweeter to me than Torah shebechsav. Quite beautiful. So the Gemara says, Ma'ishna haikra de shayle. Why did Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Shmuel get into this pasuk? Right? Why is this? Why are they into this? Well, listen to this. Because the truth is, remember again, this whole discussion gets started because Rabbi Shmuel asks Rabbi Yeshua a question about Gevinas Akum, and Rabbi Shmuel was constantly challenging Rabbi Yeshua's answer. So finally, Rabbi Yeshua says the following: My dear colleague, Yeshakeni min neshikos pihu. We'll say, listen to this. What does the pasuk mean? Literally, he will kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. Amr le Yishmael achi. He says, Rabbi Yeshua says, Yishmael, my brother, Chashok sifsosecha zu bezu. Do me a favor, put your lips together. We'll say, what does put your lips together mean? Be quiet. Be quiet. V'al tiva lahashiv. Don't be so quick to go ahead. Rashi says, al tiva lahashiv means al tizdakik lahakshoslo. Don't ask so many questions, right? What is this? We'll say, my timer. So we'll say, you have over here, so Rabbi Shmuel asks Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua answers. Rabbi Shmuel is challenging Rabbi Yeshua's answer, to which Rabbi Yeshua finally says, listen, Yeshakini min neshikos pihu. Do me a favor, put your lips together, be quiet, be quiet. Now why does Rabbi Yeshua say that? Amr ula v'timer Rabbi Shmuel bar Abba, gezerah chadosh. Rabbi says it's actually very profound. That ultimately, again, what Rabbi Yeshua was telling Rabbi Shmuel was as follows. This gezerah of Gevinas Akum is a brand new gezerah. Ve'ein mefakfikin ba. And ultimately, again, I will say, when it comes to a new gezerah, we don't ask questions. I will say, this is actually very profound. Which new gezerah time? My gezerah. So, Amar Rav Shimon Pasi, Amar Shimon Levi. So we'll say, before we get to that, so what we'll say, this is an exceptionally profound idea, which is going to be exceptionally countercultural for us. What Rabbi Yeshua is saying to Rabbi Shmuel is, when Chazal make a gezerah, we'll say the first step in the gezerah is blind acceptance. I will say, you know that the first job in being a Jew, the first part of being a Jew, is learning to be a good soldier. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu says something, I listen. When Chazal say something, I listen. It's not the first nekuda is not for me to understand something. The first nekuda ultimately is not for me to comprehend. The first nekuda is not that the gzera, or the halacha, or the pasuk appeal to my intellect or my svara. The first job of the Jew is to learn how to listen to instructions. We'll say this, Soloveitchik points this out by actually in one of his essays on Purim, one of his shirim on Purim, where he makes a distinction between Mordechai and Moshe, and how he discusses that. If you look at Moshe Rabbeinu's leadership is fully scripted. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu exactly what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. And in fact, again, when does Moshe Rabbeinu get into trouble? When he doesn't follow the script. Moshe Rabbeinu taught us how to be good soldiers. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Dabra b'nei Yisrael, so walk into the water, walk into the water. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Harimatcha, lift your staff, lift your staff. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, ascend to the mountain, ascend to the mountain. That the first step in being a good Jew is figuring out how to follow orders. Even the order doesn't make sense to me, the order doesn't appeal to me, the order doesn't appeal to my isms, to my ashkafas, to my ideologies. It's fine, it doesn't make a difference. Just do it. Just because that's Chush Baruch Hu says, that's the Chazal said. So comes along Rabbi Yeshua says to Rabbi Shmuel, there's a new Gzera, Bein Mefakfikin Ba. Also in Chazal make a Gzera, what's the first job of the Jew? The first job of the Jew is to listen, not to question, but to listen. They will say, so what's the Gzera of here? So, meaning, why did Chazal say that you can't eat Gvina Sakum? They will say, ultimately, again, there was a concern because of literally, Nikur means snake bites. They will say, the issue is that apparently when it came to Gvinas Akum, that apparently the Akum were not careful in leaving and covering the cheese at night, and as such, there was a concern about snake venom. So why don't you just say that? Why don't you just say that you can't eat Gvinas Akum because there's an issue ultimately of snake venom? Kidu'ula, da'amar ula, kol gazeri, kol gazre gzerte b'ma'arava, lo magalu taima atresa yarchishasa. So listen to this. Whenever Chazal would make a gzera in Eretz Yisrael, they would not reveal the reason for the gzera for the first 12 months after the gzera was made. Why? Dilma ika inish because of us, you know what happens. See, in every shir, right, and even in every base medrash, there's always the nunnik who knows more than everything, right? There's the guy who knows more than anything, right? He knows more than Chazal, he knows more than Moshe Rabbeinu. Maybe he knows a little bit less than HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? They'll say, that's the person who hears something and all upset. Calm down. You don't know everything, right? You barely know anything. So Chazal said that, for the first 12 months, we don't reveal the reasons. Do you know why? Because it's always going to be the nudnik who says, doesn't make any sense, right? So Chazal said, be a little bit humble and recognize that as much as you think you know, because you've been learning Torah for 3.5 hours, so understand that Chazal knew more. And how do we ingrain that? That we don't discuss the reasoning for Takanos D'Rabbanan for 12 months. Why? You know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and habituate people to observe the halacha. So follow the halacha. After 12 months, once it's ingrained in Judaic practice, then we could get into the reasoning. Then remember again, the beautiful part about Yiddishkeit is we're not averse to challenging, and we're not averse to questioning, and we're not averse to understanding. But that comes after acceptance. That's the Nasa and Nishma. That's the Nasa, I'm going to do it. And Nishma, then I'm going to hear the Svaras. I'm curious to understand why this is so. And I'm going to and we'll say, here's the amazing part. Even though I'm going to do it, of course I'm going to do it because it's halacha, it's in Shulchan Aruch, it's in Torah. Of course I'm going to do it. But Nishma, I'm going to challenge the Svaras. I'm going to try to understand it. So that's the model that Chazal said over here. Nasa, for 12 months, we're going to go ahead and acclimate the people or habituate the people in observance. And then Nishma, then we can get into the Svaras afterwards. Why do we do this? Dilma ika inish delo svirale, because we'll say perhaps there's going to be somebody who doesn't like this Svara. Va'asi lizalzulabe. And I will say he may become disparaging ultimately again of the halacha, and that's not healthy for the halachic process. Therefore, I will say so go back to the Mishnah for just a moment. That helps to explain the little bit of the strange dialogue between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Shmuel seems to ask a legitimate question: why did Chazal aser gvinas akum? Rabbi Yoshua gives an answer. Rabbi Shmuel challenges the answer, understandably so. And then Rabbi Yoshua seems to get like a little bit, what's the right word? Not standoffish, but what does it mean? Like when you avoid something, aloof. Yeah, aloof. He just takes a very he's just avoiding the question, which is so strange. Why not just answer the question? And I will say the answer ultimately is because Rabbi Yeshua says, "Listen, this is a brand new gzeira. This is a brand new gzeira." And the truth is, again, we don't question it now. Right now, our job is to observe. Right now, our job is to accept. And after it becomes ingrained, then we could go back and analyze a bit more. So Megadev ba Rabbi Yirmiyah. So Rabbi Yirmiyah was surprised about this whole exchange. Elameata. So we'll say, if you're going to tell me that the issue with cheese, let's go back for just a moment. Now you tell me that the issue with Gvinas Akum, we'll say, is an issue of snake venom. Right? The issue is that we're concerned that the Akum is not careful to cover the cheese at night. And therefore, again, there's this issue of snake venom. Elameata yavsha tishtari. Yoshin tishri. We'll say if that's the case, as long as the cheese dries out, or as long as the cheese ages, it should be permitted. Why? Don Rabbi Chanina, yavash mutter, ein manichal yavish. Yoshin mutter, ein manichal yoshin. And we'll say apparently snake venom prevents moisture from evaporating. Snake venom also prevents aging process from occurring. So if the cheese dries out, or if the cheese ages, then what? That's a raya that there's no venom mixed in and it should be fine. So Rabbi Chanina therefore answers, we'll say another answer. The she'af sharla below tzictzuche chalav. Rabbi Chanina says, no, what's the concern? We'll say the concern over here is as follows. Even when cheese goes ahead and ages, right, or cheese dries out, we'll say, there was always some moisture, some milk left in the holes of the cheese. So we'll say what Rabbi Chanina seems to be fearful of over here is an issue that non-kosher milk was mixed in. So we'll say, so even if the cheese ultimately, it's not an issue of snake venom, Rabbi Chanina says, but rather, again, it's an issue of chalav tameh. Now, we'll say, we're going to see later on that lamaisa, again, chalav tameh, so milk from a non-kosher animal could not act as a coagulant. It just has to do with the properties of the milk. We'll discuss this later on. But the issue is, even if he primarily used kosher milk as the coagulant, there might have been some non-kosher milk mixed in, and you wouldn't be able to tell, because under normal circumstances, it's always natural for cheese to have some liquid milk left over in the holes of the cheese. Therefore, Rabbi Chanina says, you can't eat gavinas akum out of the concern that milk from a non-kosher animal was mixed in. Shmuel says, no, a different reason. Well, this is actually very interesting. Shmuel says the issue over here is because they actually use a piece of the stomach as the coagulant for the cheese. Right, so the stomach itself of the nevela, the stomach itself of the non-kosher animal, was used as the coagulant. So the Gemara says, oh, so you tell me the reason why it's a problem is because they're using a piece of the stomach. Now I will say the piece of the stomach is what? That's basar, right? That's meat. That's right. That's nevela. So you're telling me that's the issue. Ha keva gufa sharia. But if they weren't using the actual stomach, but only what? Only what? Some of the undigested milk, the rennet from the stomach, then that sounds like it would be fine. They will say, what it sounds like over here, the problem is because when you use the stomach, that's mamish nevela. So you're telling me now that akum makes his cheese out of nevela. But if he was just using some of the unprocessed milk, Rabbi say, then that would be pirsha, right? That'd be like the excrement, and that would be fine. But we learned, kevas ha'ovei kochavim v'shel nevela hareizu asura. Rabbi say, yeah, we learned in the Mishnah that the stomach, right, of the oved kochavim, the stomach meaning of, not the stomach of oved kochavim, but the stomach of the animal of an oved kochavim, or the stomach of an avela, hareizu asura. Rabbi say this is asur, ultimately again, to make cheese with. V'avinan ba atu to oved kochavim lav neveli. And Rabbi say, we ask on that, why does it say two different things? The animal of an oved kochavim and an avela, is that not the same thing? But Shmuel chadikatani, here's what it means to say. Kevas shchitas oved kochavim nevela asura. So Shmuel says, Enachinami, what does it mean? It really means one thing. That the stomach of an animal shechted by an oved kochavim, which is effectively what? Which is effectively an avela, ultimately, again, is going to be asuras. If you make cheese with that, it's going to be asura. Now look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says over here, Umiyamar Shmuel, do ar kevas nevela da asura val keva atzma de nevela hainu chalav akar shekanas b'meya atala. Right? Sharia, alma pir sheba almi. So I'll say, so what do you see from here? You see from here that ultimately, again, remember, Shmuel is assuring not only the use of the stomach itself. See, I will say, everybody will agree that the use of the stomach, the use of a piece of the stomach to make cheese is going to be asur, right? Everybody's going to agree with that. Why? Because at the end of the day, I will say that's mamish nevela. But Shmuel is saying over here that even the use of the milk from the stomach of the animal, right? Even the use of the rennet from the stomach of the animal is going to be asura as well. It's not just the use of the stomach itself, but it's anything inside the stomach that has the status of nevela as well. So we'll say, so which one is it? You just said before that Shmuel only asers when you use the stomach itself, but if you use the milk in the stomach, it's not problematic. Yet here, you're saying that even if you use the milk in the stomach, it's problematic. Lo kasha tush. The Gemara says it's not a contradiction. I'll say Amud Beis kan kodem chazara kan la'achar chazara u'mishna lo zaza mimekoma. So we'll say take a look at the tab Rashi Lamed Amud Beis kan kodem chazara osa mishna deshchita schulin de kevas oved kochavim. Excuse me, de kevas oved kochavim nevela vasura. So we'll say that Mishnah which we just read before, that the stomach, that which is found in the stomach of the animal of the Ovid Kochavim, is considered to be Nevela and Asura. Nishnis Kodem Shechazav Rabbi Yoshua Midvar. We'll say that was codified before Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi say recanted his words in our Mishnah. Shamar Rabbi Shmuel Amidin also became Vasnavela, the Savar Lav Pirshehi. So so this Mishnah was mentioned, was learned before Rabbi Yoshua went ahead and changed his mind and still held that the milk found in the stomach of an Avela is not Pirsha, but rather ultimately again is Nevela itself. Whereas I will say the second Mishnah is after Rabbi Yoshua ultimately recanted, or not recanted, but changed his position. Umishnah lo zazim emkoma. But I will say, but the Mishnah in Shchitas Chulin did not amend its position, since it was already learned before, therefore remained in the books as it was. So I will say, so bottom line, what the Gemara is suggesting over here is as follows: that both are problematic. I will say that both ultimately again the actual stomach, which is obviously nevela, will be problematic. And I will say we see there's a machlokes about what to do about the rennet. Is the undigested milk in the stomach of the animal, is that considered to be nevela, or is that considered to be pirsha? Is that considered to be nevela, and therefore if you make cheese with it, it'll have the status of it'll be asura? Or do we say no? Anything that's undigested in the stomach of the animal, I will say, is like excrement, and therefore ultimately again will not be problematic. But I will say that ultimately again is the subject of machlokes. For our purposes now, the point the Gemara is making over here is that according to Shmuel, I will say the reason why the gvinas akum will be asur was because they're not simply using the undigested milk. Rather, what are they using? The actual piece of the stomach itself, which will mamish be in Israel Vavela. Rav Malkim Mishmeid Rav Adavar Ava Amar Mipnei Shemachlikin Paneh B'Shuman Chazer. We'll say Malkia says the reason why gvinas akum is asur, we'll say why, is because they used to coat the outside of the cheese with shuman chazer, with the fat of a chazer, lard. So we'll say, so this is what they would do. This, so interestingly enough, this wasn't about the actual cheese production, but rather this was about the finishes of the cheese. This is how they would finish off the cheese. I guess we'll put a shine on the outside of the cheese. So because of that, it's going to be aser. Rav Chisda Amar mepnei shema'amidin osa b'chometz. Rav Chisda says it's problematic, where I will say because they go ahead and they use chometz, vinegar, as a coagulant, and therefore again, I will say vinegar is problematic. Why? Right. Because of yayin nesach, right? Because of yayin nesach or stam yeinam. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar mepnei shema'amidin osa b'sraf ha'orla. Well, it's actually quite interesting. Rav Nachman says it's an issue because they use the sap of orla fruit. Remember again, orla fruit is fruit in the first 3 years of its existence. Kiman, I've also used to paint this as a fact. Ki aitana desanya, Rabbi Lazar Omer hamamid b'sraf ha'orla aser. If somebody goes ahead, I will say ma'amid, and goes and makes cheese uses as a coagulant the sap of orla fruit, it's going to be aser. Why? Mipnei shu peri, because we will say the sap has the same status as the pre. The sap itself has the same status as the fruit, and therefore, just as you can't get hana from orla, so too Rabbi say you can't what? You can't get hana from the sap itself. So the Gemara says afilu tema Rabbi Yoshua. We'll say the truth is this could even reflect the view of Rabbi Yoshua. How so? Ad kan lo palik Rabbi Yoshua ali Rabbi Lazar ela bekatfa de guza. Rabbi Yoshua only arguing Rabbi Lazar was like katfa de guza. What's katfa de guza? It's almost right across in Rashi. Katfa de guza b'sraf hayotze min ha'etz. So we'll say Rabbi Yoshua argued and felt that you should be able to use the sap of an orla tree. Sap of an orla tree should be permitted. Aval bekatva de peri modi. We'll say even Rabbi Yoshua agrees that it's only that when it comes to the sap of the fruit, Rabbi will say the sap of the fruit itself has the same status as the fruit. Therefore, sap of an orla fruit is considered to be like orla fruit. Therefore, if you use the sap ultimately as a coagulant for cheese, it will be problematic. V'hainu disnan Amar Rabbi Yoshua shamati beferish. Rabbi Yoshua says, I heard explicitly shahamamid b'sraf ha'alin or b'sraf ha'ikarin mutter. That if you go ahead and you use the sap of the leaves or the sap of the roots to go ahead and make cheese, the cheese will be mutter. Why, Rabbi say? Because that sap does not have the status as the fruit. However, b'sraf hapagin aser mipnei shuperi. Rabbi say, if I go ahead and I make the cheese with the sap of the pagin, Rabbi say pagin refers to the fruit. It really usually refers to like the underdeveloped or immature fruit. Ultimately, again, it will be aser. Why? Because ultimately, again, I will say because that sap has the status of the pre itself. So the Gemara says, I will say. So therefore, Rav Nachman therefore says, the issue with Gavinas Akum is that often they use the sap of arla fruit, and that's why it will be problematic. So the Gemara makes an interesting observation. Bein Rav Chisda, Bein Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, Tissar Bahana. We'll say, now both according to the logic of Rav Chisda and Rav Nachman. We'll say, remember again, Rav Chisda said that they go Akum and make cheese with what? Chometz, vinegar, which then made cheese an issue of Yayin Nesach. Rav Nachman said, ultimately, the problem is they make cheese with what Rabbi say, with the sap of arla fruit. Rabbi say, according to both of them, Kavinas Akob should not only be Asr Ba'achila, but what? It should also be Asr Ba'ana. To which the Gemara says, Kasha. Indeed, that is a legitimate question. So we'll say, so bottom line, this is really where the sugya ends off. Bottom line, Kavinas Akom will be Asr. Cheese made by an Akom will be Asr. I will say, we see that it is for a variety of different opinions, and obviously also reflecting cheese making processes in different locales as well. The Gemara ends off a little bit of Agarata. Darash Rav Nachman Breid Rav Chisda. My Tichsev. So we'll say now. Remember again the way that Rabbi Yoshua kind of got Rabbi Shmuel off topic is by beginning to beginning to talk a little bit about Agarata. So the sugya ends off by discussing that pasuk. My dichsiv l'reach shmanecha tovim. And both say, what does it mean when the pasuk in Shir Hashirim says, literally the reach shmanecha, the scent of your oils is good. What does that mean? Lema tam tacham domer. Both is actually quite a beautiful Gemara. To what can a tam tacham be compared? Litzluchis shal plaitin megula. Right. Ultimately, again, I should say litzluchos shal plaitin. Both say tam tacham could be compared to a flask of perfume. Why? What's the comparison? Well, listen to how beautiful this is. Megula, if the flask is open, recha nodef. Ultimately, again, the scent is able to spread. Mechusa, but if the flask is covered, ein recha nodef. Then the scent does not spread. But say, look at Rashi for just a moment. It's actually quite beautiful. Megula recha nodef. V'hainu dechsev shemen turak shemen. Shmecha, excuse me. Kishemegalin osa umarikin shmana kilomar. Kisha'ata melamed Torah l'talmidim as yetzi l'chashen. Let's listen to how beautiful this is. So a Talmid Chacham is compared ultimately to a flask of perfume. If the flask is opened, so ultimately again, so the scent is able to set up. So what does that mean? If a Talmid Chacham goes ahead and teaches Torah, then by definition again, the scent of his Torah ultimately devolves upon the Talmidim. If, however, again he keeps his Torah for himself, then what? Then it's like the flask is stopped up. There's like the stopper. The stopper is inside the flask, doesn't allow the scent to spread. Not only that, I will say, when the Talmid Chacham decides to go ahead and teach his Torah, share his Torah with others, things that were initially hidden from him become revealed. Which I will say is another way of saying that when a Talmid Chacham teaches Torah, through the teaching of Torah, he comes to understand things that he did not understand on his own. When a person chooses to take his Torah and share it with others, there's a special siyata d'shmaya that is given to allow him to understand things that up until this point in time remained hidden. Shina Amar, because the pasuk says, Alemos ayivucha, karibei alumos. We will say, read not alemos, but alumos. Alumos means those things that were hidden, ayivucha, will now be revealed to those who are loved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll say not only that, when a person, Talmid Chacham, chooses to share his Torah, to teach his Torah, he even becomes beloved by the Malach HaMaves. Okay, Shnei, what does that mean? Alemos Ayivucha Kari Bei Al Maves. We'll say what it means is not Alemos, but Al Maves. Literally, again, even to that one who is in charge of death, Ayivucha become beloved. Which I will say another way of saying that when you go ahead and you teach Torah, ultimately, again, you'll be blessed with longevity. I will say, now what does that mean? Longevity doesn't necessarily have to be in a biological sense. The idea is when a person teaches Torah, even when he is no longer in this world, the Torah that he taught is still able to live on. So ultimately, again, he's able to defy even the Malach HaMavis. That will say, but what? He could inherit two worlds. Echad ha'olam hazeh ve'echad ha'olam haba. Ultimately, again, the person who chooses to take his Torah and to teach it to others inherits this world as well as the world. Come Shneimar alemos karibei olamos. We'll say, don't read alemos, but olamos. Olamos avucha. You'll be loved in both worlds, in this world as well as in the world to come. We'll say the image is very beautiful. The idea that many of us, and we'll say you don't just have to apply this teaching ultimately again to one who teaches Torah. We'll say each of us, it's an incredible metaphor, is like this flask of incredible, beautiful perfume. And the idea is that all too often in life, we live life with the stopper in our bottle. And if only we would take the stopper out and share the gifts. So we'll say that perfume represents the gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given each of us. We all have incredible kochos, we all have incredible abilities, we all have incredible gifts. And too often, we just keep it in the bottle. So the goal in life ultimately is to remove the stopper, to take those gifts, to share them with those around us, and somehow spread the fragrance of our kochos to the world around us. Says the Mishnah, Bosai. Bosai, when you continue going through the list, these are the things that are of Ovdei Kochavim that will be Asr, but it is not an Isser Hana. We'll say, what are they? Chalav, right? Chalav shechalva of Ovdei Kochavim ve'in Yisora Oyer. We'll say, if an Akum goes ahead and produces milk, right? He milks an animal, and there's not a mashgiach there, right? There's not a mashgiach there, right? So we'll say, so remember again, Chalav Yisrael doesn't have to be milk that is milked by a Jew. It means that what? Milk that a Jew watched, right? Or say a milking process that a Jew oversaw. Any time that an akum, so the Gemara says, if an akum just milks the animal himself and a Jew is not present, a Jew is not permitted to drink that milk. It's an Isser Achila, not an Isser Hana. Va'apa, similarly again, bread produced by an akum, v'hashem and shalahan, or oil produced by an akum. So Rebbe Ubeistino Tira Shemen. But now, so again, I will say we have milk, bread, oil produced by an akum without Jewish supervision is an Isser Achila but not an Isser Hana. Rebbe Ubeistino Tira Shemen. Rebbe in his basin permitted the oil of an akum. Vashlakos. So we'll say shlakos. Rashi says, "Kol davar shebishla obed kochav ma'avilu b'klitar v'kol mishum chasnos." We'll say shlakos refers to bishul akum. Any food cooked by a Gentile, even if ingredient-wise it is kosher, I am not permitted to eat it. Rashi already gives you a mishum chasnos. So we'll say there's going to be a whole series of prohibitions that were made in order to discourage intermarriage. Ukvashin shedarkan lo seis l'sochin yain chometz. So we'll say kvashin literally means like preserves. We'll discuss this in the Gemara, where the derech is to put in them wine or chometz or vinegar. It also will be problematic. Utaris trufa. We'll say we're going to define all of these things. Taris trufa, we'll say means minced taris. We'll say taris. Rashi says is min dagim kitanim eluchim. Was a type of small salted fish. So the issue over here at taris trufa is you can't buy this from an akum. Why not? Because you can mix in non-kosher fish. Tzir she'in badaga kalbis shotet esbo. Similarly, you can't buy tzir. Now, we'll say tzir usually means brine. We'll discuss in the Gemara what it means. So brine, where there wasn't a kalbis fish swimming around in it. So we'll say we're going to see kosher brine often had a fish called a kalbis swimming around in it. If you buy brine from an akum and there's no kalbis fish swimming around in it, you can't buy it. Vachilik, we'll say chilik we actually saw in yesterday's daf, is a type of fish called the saltonis. Saltonis is the fish that when it's young does not have fins and scales. So we'll say you can't buy this from the akum out of a concern that what? Out of a concern that ultimately he's going to mix in non-kosher fish. The korat shel chiltis. So we'll say korat shel chiltis, remember again, is also a stalk of a type of wheat. Rashi says min peirihi. We're going to see it's actually going to be a type of wheat or type of grain that it was. And the problem was the akum often harvested it with his regular knife. So because of that, the issue is some of the schmaltz, some of the schmutz from his knife would get onto this type of grain. Well, again, we're going to define all these things in the Gemara. Umelech shalkundis. You also can't purchase for them shalkundis salt. Hare'elu asurin ve'ein yisurin isra'na. I will say all of these things are asur. You can't purchase it from the akum, but it is only in Isra Achila, not in Isra Hana. Says the Gemara. Chalav. I will say when it comes to the milk of an akum, l'may nechosh, what are we concerned about? Imishum ichlufe. If you're concerned ultimately that's what? That maybe the akum is going to go ahead and swap out milk from a non-kosher animal and tell me that it's kosher. So there's an easy way to tell. Tarchir tame yarak. I will say generally milk from kosher animals is white in its appearance, whereas milk from non-kosher animals has a bit of a yellower texture, a yellower color to it. V'imishum iruvi. I will say if you're concerned that maybe he's going to mix in milk from a non-kosher animal with my kosher milk, we'll say first wide line, nekum. That's not a problem. We'll say just make cheese from it. Because after all, Damar Mar, chalav tar omit, chalav tame ino. It was actually an interesting idea that apparently, again, only milk from a kosher animal coagulates. Milk from a non-kosher animal does not coagulate. So if you want to see if the akum is substituting non-kosher milk, there's a very easy litmus test, which is just make cheese. To which the Gemara says, that's fine. That's fine if I'm purchasing milk because I want to make cheese. But I will say, what's the issue over here? Ultimately, I will say, I don't want to make cheese. I will say, either the simplest answer is I just want to drink it. I just want to drink milk. Although it's interesting that it appears that milk was not a commonly consumed drink, which is interesting, which is why the Gemara says, I'm not purchasing it for cheese, I'm purchasing it with kamcha. I will say kamcha, Rashi says over here, is a dip. Rashi says ma'achol. Is I'm purchasing it for food purposes, but I'm not purchasing it to make cheese. Well, if that's the case, so therefore again, v'nishkol minei kali v'nekum. So why don't you go ahead and just take a little bit, just separate a little bit off of it, and see if it curdles. If it curdles, we'll say, then what? That's a sure indication that's what? That Lamai says kosher, it's from a kosher animal. To which the Gemara says, no. Kevin de bitar nami iken esyube de lo kaimi leka lemilkam alei de milsa. And we'll say, here's the issue. The issue is we're concerned that maybe the akum did take some milk from a kosher animal, but maybe he mixed in non-kosher milk. Even if you curdle the cheese, which it will since it's kosher milk, we'll say anytime you make cheese, there is always some leftover milk. There's always something, we'll say, you know what we call that? Generally that's called whey, right? There's leftover milk from the, so therefore we'll say, even if you mixed in non-kosher milk, so let me say differently. Even if the akum took kosher milk, but mixed in some non-kosher milk, it'll curdle, there'll be some leftover milk. Now that leftover milk may in reality be what? May have to be non-kosher milk. But you won't be able to tell, because in general, in the cheese making process, there's always uncurdled milk that remains. So the point the Gemara is making is, really the concern is that the akum is going to mix in non-kosher milk, and you really have no way of actually telling. To which the Gemara says, V'bay sema, afilu tema dikabayle legvina. So the Gemara says, again, just an alternate version of the same discussion. Even if you are going to purchase the milk and use it for cheese-making purposes, Rabbi say, the concern that we have, which is that the Gentile will mix in non-kosher milk, still remains, because even though it's kosher milk and it'll curdle, there'll always be some milk that remains in the holes of the cheese, and therefore Rabbi say, ultimately, again, you can't tell what the akum is. Rabbi say, so bottom line, halacha lemaisa, you can't go ahead and purchase milk from an akum out of concern that the akum may have mixed in non-kosher milk to the mixture. And at the end of the day, there's no way that you could really tell if that happened or not. Therefore, Chazal said, ultimately, one should not purchase milk from an akum. So both say, this, of course, is the concept of Chalav Yisrael. So there's a lot to speak about with this, because I will say today, and let's say, for example, in today's day and age, so where, again, the dairy industry is much more regulated. So therefore, again, a dairy farmer cannot go ahead and mix in chazer milk with cow milk because there are regulations. So again, there are poskim who bring down that therefore, again, one is permitted to consume milk, even if it's not quote-unquote Chalav Yisrael, because of the supervision that's in effect. Rabbi was like, just so you should know, but again, so people often point to the tshuva of Rav Moshe about this. Even Rav Moshe was not really saying this as a lechatchila. Rav Moshe was saying it as a b'diavad. That b'diavad, if a person goes ahead and drinks milk with stam hashgacha, that's not Chalav Yisrael, I'm not in violation of anything. Is that the lechatchila? See, if Rav Moshe would say again, no, it's not the lechatchila. The lechatchila is to still go ahead and consume what we call Chalav Yisrael. But again, at least in our country, the reason I say in our country is because if you travel to Europe, I will say this is not the case. If you travel in Europe, again, dairy regulation is exceptionally different, and one mamish has to be choshesh for what the Mishnah is describing over here about milk from non-kosher animals. So certainly in Europe, one would have to absolutely be makbid on Chalav Yisrael. Europe, and I don't know about other places in the world. Again, here in America, because of the regulation of the dairy industry, there is the tshuva of Rav Moshe, but there are still many others who would say that even with that tshuva, l'chatchila, if one is able to go ahead and be makbid on Chalav Yisrael, certainly again for the actual milk itself, because again, beyond our scope right now. There's also a distinction between milk itself versus other dairy products. At least when it comes to milk itself, even Rav Moshe would say who permits consumption of milk in our country without Chalav Yisrael designation, would still say the Lechatchila, if one could go ahead and procure and secure Chalav Yisrael milk, that certainly would be the Lechatchila. Fine, Vapas, well, let's just we'll go right for another minute. Vapas, what about bread? So Amar Rav Kana, Amar Rav Yochanan, Pas lo hutra bebezdin. So Rav Kana said that Pas, the bread of an akum, was not permitted in Beis Din. So the Gemara says, Mechlal v'ika man dishari. Is that telling us that ultimately, again, there is one who permits pas of an akum? So in Dichi Aser of Dimi Amar Pam Achas Yatsa Rabbi Lasad. At one time, Rabbi went out to the fields. Ve'hevi Ovei Kochavim Lafan of Pas Purni. Ma'afes and the akum brought before Ambosai a pas purni. What's that pas purni? Rashi says, Tanur. Purni is a type of oven, a large oven. So he brought from like a nice big loaf from the pas purni that was a saw. Amar Rebbe. Rebbe says, Kama no a pas zu. What a beautiful loaf of bread. What a beautiful loaf of bread. Ma ra'u chachamim la'osra. Why did Chazal feel fit to go ahead and aser it? So the Gemara says, Ma ra'u chachamim. Why did Chacham aser it? Mishum chasnos. We'll say again, pas akun abasai. Remember again, there's an interesting idea. The bread of an akum, the bread of a Gentile, is going to be aser. We'll say even if ingredient-wise it's totally kosher, it'll still be prohibited. Why? Mishum chasnos. We'll say mishum chasnos means als intermarriage. There's an issue that Chazal said you can't eat certain things that bring people to closer. Breaking bread with someone is something that ultimately brings people closer together. Therefore, you can't eat the bread of a Gentile. What Rebbe was really saying was, why did Chazal ultimately answer this in the Sada? But I was saying that answer in the Sada means, if I'm out in the I understand if I can't eat the bread in the Akum's home. But if we're out in the field together, there's no chaslas, why should it be permitted? People thought that Rebbe permitted the consumption of pas akum. Below Rebbe lo hitir es hapas. Ultimately, again, Rebbe did not go ahead and permit the pas. So we'll have to stop over here for today. We'll pick up with Rav Yosef's version again about this. It's an alternate version about what happened with Rebbe in the field, and we'll see the ramification of that ultimately.